Okay, so there's certainly other things to talk about with Game 2 besides Chris Paul's injury, but this is the biggest thing. I feel bad for CP, man. This is, of course, not the first time that he has had an injury in a playoff series, and I really hope that he is fully ready to go by Game 3. But given this game, I don't know. He played 20-something minutes. They didn't look his way too much. Eventually, it just seemed like Cam Payne was running the whole show. Well, Booker was really running the show, but you know what I mean. Of course, CP did get some minutes in the fourth quarter, but without him, man, I just don't know how the Suns make this a competitive series. I mean, sure, in Game 2, it was still close, and they were up one with about 5 minutes left, I want to say. And Devin Booker drew a whole bunch of fouls, and those are things they can lean on. And DeAndre Ayton was very good, but that was mainly as a finisher. And it's like, can the Suns just get enough possessions in the paint and enough easy looks for Ayton so he can keep doing that? And can they get those transition looks that they got in the first half of Game 1 that really killed the Lakers and whatever else without Chris Paul? I'm not really sure. I mean, you imagine Cam Payne will get a lot of minutes, and he's cool, but it's a lot worse than Chris Paul, of course. And then I think you just look at, like, can Mikal Bridges handle a little more ball handling duties? Do you just need to shoot more threes? Is that your way to make up for CP perhaps not being the same or just not there at all? Who knows? You might just have to lean on DeAndre Ayton a lot more. And like I said, he's been a finisher, especially in Game 2. Those were like most of his buckets. He had a couple of plays. He had one reverse layup off of a drive by Andre Drummond that was pretty cool. He had one where he knocked Drummond over and the Lakers thought it was a foul, and that was a dunk. He also had a face-up jumper over Drummond, which I think was the first basket of the game for Phoenix. So he's got potential. You might just need to go to him a lot. I mean, I can't remember if they've really gone to Ayton in the post like that in this series, but if you don't have Chris Paul, you might have to. Now, just to think about Devin Booker, of course, he's going to have to be just really, really amazing if CP can't be full CP. And to think about the Lakers' defensive adjustments in this game, the main thing they did was they moved away from the trapping, which I think made it a little too easy for Booker to find the easy pass. And instead, they had the initial defender stay on Booker and stay on his back while the big dropped a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And it did make Booker kind of uncomfortable because he was just kind of sandwiched between the point guard and the center, the two guard or whatever. And, it forced him to pick the ball up, and it led to a few turnovers. And sure, Booker was still really good, and that was mainly just because he drew so many fouls. There was like one on Gasol when Gasol got switched onto him. Also, we saw Marc Gasol in this game. That was cool. There was one where AD, he drew a foul on him when he got switched onto him. There was one on Schroeder. Kuzma just had his hand out, so Booker just went up with his motion and drew a foul. And it just might have to be a whole lot of that the rest of the series. Devin Booker is going to have to be super amazing for the Suns to have any sort of chance if Chris Paul is not 100%. One thing that was interesting to me is that it didn't seem like they ran the curl play that killed the Lakers so much in Game 1. You might need to go to that more moving forward just to get Booker some sort of easier shots besides just a simple screen up top. So we'll see what they want to do. The best thing is, of course, if CP is ready to go, but who knows if that's going to happen. I guess we can talk a bit about the Lakers and the adjustments they made in Game 2. Of course, I already said it. The coverage on Devin Booker was a little different. Anthony Davis was a lot more aggressive. He had many plays where he could have just taken a jump shot, and instead he took a couple extra dribbles inside, and sometimes it was at Ayton, and sometimes there was a couple of wing players there, and he hit the floor a couple times. He drew contact. He shot a whole bunch of free throws. That was that. He also had a couple of post-up plays where he was able to draw a foul from DeAndre Ayton. So, we got AD in Game 2. That's what we needed, and that's what we should have expected. LeBron is still not really attacking the rim. I mean, he had that super casual dunk off of a turnover. He had the alley-oop that was cool. But for the most part, man, it was jump shots, and it was holding the ball for 5 seconds and eventually shooting it. And he had that one crazy turnaround, and he had that one in the corner where he was like falling out of bounds. That was like a handoff play or whatever it was. But still, it's clear that LeBron is not being as aggressive as he could be. I don't know if it's the ankle. I don't know if it's just conserving energy. Who knows? Schroeder, of course, was really good. I mean, some of it was just pick and rolls, and some of it was on Chris Paul. It's not as if he got all of his points when CP was not out there. But still, you'd have to imagine if Chris Paul can't be himself, then that's not going to help you defensively. And the other thing I noticed was they ran like one Schroeder play where LeBron set him a screen, and that was kind of cool. As far as the Marc Gasol, Andre Drummond, Montrez thing, well, Montrez did not play at all. And that could have just been Vogel having a one-game thing. That could have also been a bit of a statement about the rest of this series or potentially the playoffs. I mean, this will, of course, depend on who the Lakers run into, and I mean, I don't want to look too far ahead, but if Chris Paul is not going to be himself, then it's going to be pretty tough for Phoenix to win the series. It was going to be tough anyway. My prediction, as I think most people's is the Lakers for this thing. You know, if they meet the Nuggets in round 2, well, we saw how Montrez handled Jokic before, so that might make a lot of sense. If they end up facing the Blazers, Nurkic, Montrez, if they got matched up, that would be interesting. But it makes sense to get Gasol going because we clearly saw him do some things differently that those other guys can't. For one, he made 2 threes, one of which took him like a year to attempt, but he finally got there. He's the best passer out of the big guys as well, so we'll just see. I mean, at the same time, Gasol doesn't roll to the rim as much as he used to, right? Whereas Montrez definitely has him there. So that could have just been a matter of Vogel just deciding to go with that, and that was it. I mean, I think Drummond defensively in this game was better. There were certainly possessions when Cam Payne wanted to do something in pick and rolls, and Drummond stepped up and really got him off of the spot without fouling him. And that's nice. Now, if they end up facing the Blazers in round 2, that's going to be a whole different thing, and I don't know if Drummond can do that. But at least when the Lakers wanted him to do it a bit in this game, he was all right. You know, he was part of that sort of kind of drop coverage, not super drop coverage on Booker, and that led to some turnovers and just a slower offense in general for the Suns. So, you know, I think if you were just super pessimistic about Drummond, you got to admit, at least for this game, he was pretty good. He was pretty good. And the Lakers center thing is always an interesting conversation because clearly they're not going to go to 48 minutes of Anthony Davis at center. So we're going to be seeing these guys, and it's just going to be a game-by-game thing of sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good. And for game 2, Drummond and Gasol both did what you want them to do. Again, the big thing is Chris Paul. If he's healthy, we've got a series. If he's not, then it doesn't look so good for the Suns.